when it comes to home improvement, you've got choices. Let's say there's a hole in the bedroom wall, and somehow nobody in the house knows how it got there. You could fix it. I mean, there's always YouTube, right? But 3 hours later, it's going to look like a patch job. Not even a good patch job. And how about that leak under the kitchen sink? Yeah, you said you'd get to it, and that was what? 2.5, 3 months ago? If we're being honest, we all have that list. The one where deep down, you're not totally sure you've got the skills to pull it off. If it's my list, I'm calling Mac of all trades. Holes in the wall, handled. Leaky sinks, done. Full kitchen remodel? Yeah, they got that too. And hey, warmer weather's coming. How's that deck looking? Need it extended? Rebuilt? Outdoor patio? Don't be a deckhead. Call Mac of all trades, 585-202-9218. That's 585-202-9218. And you can see all they do online at macofalltrades.net. They'll handle it, so you don't have to.
When your old career gives you lemons, throw in some ice, mix in some vodka, and call it a podcast. From the Mac of all trades studio in Fairport, and driven by Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, it's Billified, the Bill Moran Podcast.
Welcome. Thanks for getting your pot on. Thanks for telling a friend. That's how we spread the word about the pirate ship. It's all about the grassroots. So I've been kicking around in my head for a while. I've wanted to talk to this person because when I go to the Billified Facebook page, and I don't know if she followed it or how, but she's one of the first things that pop up. Mercedes Vasquez Simmons. She's a Monroe County legislator and reaching for higher office and stuff. But that, okay, so you go, all right. But she keeps popping up, and I see things, and I see a lot of activity in the community and the stuff with politics. And then I see that she was a beauty pageant winner, and she has stuff in boxing. I see her standing with Sugar Ray Leonard, one of my favorite boxers of all time. And I go, this is either the most intimidating resume I've ever heard of, or this is someone who got real comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I thought, I got to find a way to get her on the podcast. And I just reached out one day and called the number. I thought it was somebody else that answered. It wasn't. It was her. She answered, and she said, yeah, I'd be happy to come on. And I'm honored. But that is like, I saw you standing with Sugar Ray, and I'm like, what the heck is this?
That's right. That's right. Yes. A New York State licensed boxing promoter. I may be right now the only female licensed promoter in the state of New York. Have been into boxing pretty much all my life.
Yeah.
And I'm close to 20 years ago, I started a company called Pretty Girl Productions. And that's a fun story too that I'll have to share one day. But so yes, I entered into the boxing space as a fight promoter.
Wow.
Tried the boxing, tried doing the amateur circuit, didn't care for getting punched in the face. So I decided there's got to be another way.
Yeah. It's always the punch. It's always the punch you don't throw when you're in the ring, right? It's the punch you don't throw that you go, gah! If I had only, right? And you look back at tape and it's interesting. Wow, what a cool thing. But I mean, that and Beauty Queen at the same time. I mean, what are we doing here? That's like,
believe it or not. Well, let me tell you about the Beauty Queen.
Okay.
I'm a tomboy, born and raised a tomboy. I just, in the city, we were just, I was the bully of the neighborhood, but loved to fight. I loved to scuffle with the guys, and it was fun to do that. My mother was working with a group of individuals within our community to help save what was the Puerto Rican festival. At one time, we were at jeopardy of losing the festival. And my mother was so kind of recruiting me to become a participant in this pageant, because again, they were trying to save this pageant. They were doing their fundraising just to have at least a few hours of festivities in a downtown area. And of course you have to have a beauty queen. And I'm like, beauty queen. I don't want to do this. Now I've already, dabbed into dancing. I love dancing and did a cultural piece that was true to me. In fact, I was the only contestant that didn't have shoes on, because if you understand what it is to dance a cultural song like a plena or bomba, they don't wear shoes. They didn't have shoes back then. And I was just being true to that. Yeah. And apparently that resonated with the judges. And that's how I was able to become the beauty queen, Miss Puerto Rico of Rochester.
Wow. I mean,
I was shocked too. I was like, me? Are you sure?
Well,
Are you sure?
I wasn't shocked at all. I really wasn't shocked at all. But I just thought, boy, what a thing. It's usually one or the other. You don't see many people who have such love of boxing then go into beauty, because as you said, getting punched in the face isn't fun. But what was life actually like growing up in Rochester? You just mentioned that your mom saved the Puerto Rican fest, and I don't want the polished version. I mean the real version. And I guess to sort of tag onto that, what did being Puerto Rican here feel like as a kid?
Oh, I was immersed in a community that we're all Puerto Ricans. I didn't know anything but what it is to be Puerto Rican. So I was born and raised in the inner city. In fact, I still live in the home that I was raised in. I came back about 4 or 5 years ago just to help my mother. I noticed that she was slowing down. Mm-hmm. I noticed that things were, just weren't connecting as they should have. So I said, I'm just and take some time off from boxing and the private sector to really focus on my mother's well-being. And that was probably the biggest blessing I could have had, because it allowed me to spend quality time with my mother and really understand what her motives were. Why are you going to so many meetings? And simultaneously, Father Tracy, he's a pillar in our community, particularly in the Latino community, his health started deteriorating. So I slowed down my traveling, because I was traveling quite a bit with boxing. And I slowed things down, and I thought to myself, why did God bring me back into this? And I think everything is spiritually connected.
Yeah.
Father Tracy was diagnosed with ALS, and quickly his health deteriorated. And, of course, with not being able to be as mobile as he wanted to, I was running him from one meeting to another. And I thought to myself, from sun up to sundown, he's in meetings impacting my community. And here he is. He's a Irish German priest. What was his investment? Why did he care so much about our community? And as I started meeting with individuals and attending some of his meetings, it became very clear we didn't have a seat at the table. And although we are as a I guess race, getting into spaces that at one time we weren't allowed, we still miss that voice. So Father Tracy, and just being able to shadow him and then shadow my mother, I would deem them both as Batman and Robin. When anything was happening in our community, they were front and center and bringing awareness to that community. Sadly, Father Tracy passed away, and then several years later, my mom did too. But that opportunity to be with them, right, to be in their space, to understand their why, really resonated with me. Now, again, born and raised in Rochester, my mother was a civil rights activist. And, just by nature, because I was her only daughter, I was always with her. In fact, most people think that I was the only child, and my mother had several other children. But my mother just, I was always with her. She was my best friend. And understanding her why became part of my why. It was part of my DNA. Growing up, just seeing what she was involved with. Now, I wanted to be a normal kid. I wanted to be outside playing kickball and playing baby dolls with the neighbors, but that wasn't for me. That wasn't my path. My path was to be more of a public servant, understanding the little grain that everyone puts has the impact on a community. Shortly after, my mother was quite an extraordinary woman. You either loved her or you hate her. There was nothing in between. My mother called it the way she saw it, but she earned the respect of many in our community. She was able to mobilize our Latino community when it was time to take action. Again, civil rights activist. She fought for the right to vote. Many Puerto Ricans, when they migrated to Rochester, and Latinos, of course, they're American citizens because, right, the relationship Puerto Rico has with the United States, you're able to vote. but they also saw us as cheap labor. They're cheap labor. They can come. They work the Kodaks, the Xerox, the Bosch and Loms, all manufacturing, right? Because in the late 60s, early 70s is when we had this boom here in Rochester. But what was missing was our ability to vote. Now, the ability was there. However, there was a barrier, which was illiteracy. Now, understand that that requirement was of all, African Americans, Latinos. However, those were the two major sectors that were greatly impacted. So my mother worked with the likes of Minister Florence, John Lewis, and to remove that barrier. So shortly after, Puerto Ricans were able to vote again because of their citizenship. They were able to vote. And that's really what changed things for the Latino community and the African American community. I will tell you that the relationship between the Puerto Rican community and African Americans solidified during the civil rights movement. And that's really what makes us a strong unit. We just have to remember that and continue to focus on issues that impact us in our inner city.
Wow. It really sounds like your mom had maybe the largest impact on your life, on who
absolutely.
You are today. Yeah.
Yeah. The 2020 election. Listen, I'm a fight promoter. I can tell you anything that goes inside and outside the ring. But the 2020 election was a defining moment in her life and my life. Again, my mother fought for the right to vote. My mother knows the ins and outs of voting. She worked as an inspector. She worked as a translator. She worked in many aspects. So she knows the ED, the LD, any of those numbers that come with where you're a representation. She knew it because this is what she fought for. The 2020 election, of course, being a presidential election, my mother, and it was right in the midst of COVID. So our poll site was changed last minute. It was just so many things that were happening. And my mother said, look, this is voter suppression. When they start making these changes, we now need to get back to grassroots and get our community mobilized so that we can go out to vote. We rented 3 vans. It was just very, let's transactional. Let's do this. And we were able to get the community out to vote. Our poll site was maybe a mile down, but it was very busy, intersections where we knew the elderly weren't going to walk through that. So we made it a point of getting our vans, getting a plan, and getting the folks out to vote. Now, as folks are going into the polls, they're like, well, the ballot looked a little different. Now, understand that the ballot has since changed because now everything's electronic.
Yeah.
And, I would hear that. I'm like, but what does that mean? Well, we don't know if we saw their specific candidate on the ballot. And then I thought it was problematic. Now, my mother voted only on election day at 1:00, because that would give her a gauge as to, who's leading the pack, how many voters are out, and what action she needed to take to mobilize the community. My mother was very strategic about everything she did. And she knew that there was a problem. So she walked in, and the first thing she was encountered with was a woman that didn't understand her English. Now, my mother spoke English, but she spoke English with a Spanish accent. Most people, if you took the time, you could understand what she says. Sure. She's been here 56 years. I think you should be able to, but she met some resistance early on, and my mother just, she observed it. She took this on. Okay, this is interesting. Now, again, this is during COVID. They were allowing 3 or 4 people at a time at the poll sites. And we were waiting for her in the van. And she says, well, she calls me and says, there's a problem. This ballot isn't the correct ballot. It's the wrong information on it. Now, I had the right LD, which is the legislative district, but I think the ED, there was something that wasn't right. And my mom's like, get the Board of Elections online. They don't want to call for them. So right off the bat, there's issues. I don't know if it was lack of training, but they just refused to help my mother call the Board of Elections and fix it. My mother knows what her ballot should look like. It became just a scene of just pure chaos when it shouldn't have been this. And my mother says, I've been in this situation before where my right to vote has been compromised, and I'm not going to allow it, and I'm not going to tolerate it. By this point, my mother's like in her 80s. And she's a woman that will say what's on her mind. She's always been that woman, but now she doesn't care who's in the scene. She's going to tell you how she feels, and she says, stop trying to steal my vote. So she threw the ballot back. Give me the right one. Needless to say, this ended with my mother putting the ballot after talking to her attorney. The attorney said, put the name of your candidate on the ballot. My mother literally took the paper and filled the entire thing. Literally, it went from one side to another with her candidates. Well, when you do that, it creates these little false positive things. The machine doesn't know how to read multiple things. So when she went to put the ballot in the voter machine, it rejected. It kept coming back. And the more each time, she did it 3 times, each time I can feel the anger. I can see the anger. She's putting it in, putting it out. And when it was accepted, she saw the word null. And to her, that was the kiss of death. She was like, absolutely not. You know, how dare they nullify my vote? How dare they do that? And I remember seeing her just broken by that. Broken by that. And she says, you know, I want you to call the Board of Elections. I want you to call I call the AG's office. I don't know who you need to call. Get them here and we're going to shut this place down until they can figure this out. Media came. It was quite a to-do, and she did file a lawsuit against the Board of Elections. But it was that fire, and it was that look of pain. My mother said, look, this is what I fought back in the 60s. And here it is, 2020 election, a very important election. Why is this happening? So that fire just really resonated. I think I put something on Facebook about it, you know, just being mindful of what your ballot looks like. And in my inbox came some gentleman. He was like, you know, take that stuff down. It's not true. Your candidate would have never won. And I'm like, well, a couple things. A, who are you? And how would you know who I was voting for? Everyone has a right to their experience. How dare you tell me? And it turns out he was the candidate. He was an elected official from this district. So I'm thinking, shouldn't you be asking me, what can I do to remedy this problem that you're having, instead of attacking me for posting? And at that moment, I said, well, you're part of the problem then. If you're not willing to help us fix this, you're part of the problem. And at that moment, I said, well, I'm going to run against you. I don't know where that came from. I'm a fight promoter.
So wait. Stop. Hang on a second. So in 2020, you just decide that I'm going to run for county legislator.
No political experience. You know,
well, that's what we need.
Because she was active in the political space. We worked on campaigns, but me as a candidate, are you kidding me? I'm the most politically incorrect person you'll ever meet.
Oh, that's awesome. Those are the kind of people I like. I'm in love the corner.
I'm telling fighters, what are you doing?
Yeah, right. You're holding you got spit buckets and wraps and your gauze and a little bit of Vaseline on the head. I got it. Mercedes, I love this. This is amazing. And so because of that,
I'm the last person. I think I shocked myself. Like, what did I just commit to? But it was the fire again, just to see my mother's just her disappointment, her hurt, her pain really burned a fire in me to say, why am I? My mother I could hear her say that. I'd come to her with, of course, asking for advice on things, but I'd present her problems that I've been having. And my mother would just look at me and she goes, well, are you going to sit on the sidelines or are you going to do something about it? And that, I don't want to sit on the sidelines. I refuse to sit on the sidelines. It's time for me to start taking action. And I just did a shift from boxing. I went from one ring to another because let me tell you, these are some serious battles that we've been having at the county and within our community. We now have a seat at the table. My goal is to remain active in my community. And often I ask, you're not in campaign season. You can slow down. No, when you're campaigning, you make commitments. When you're done with it, when you're done with campaigning and you've secured that seat, that's when you actually start working. You have to fulfill the commitments that you made.
Right. Right. So
I find my model, and that's what I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I think it's an amazing model. It sounds like you had an amazing mother. Right. Can I ask a personal question? Was your dad in the picture?
He was.
Okay.
My parents divorced when I was young, but my father was still very much part of our life.
Yep.
He'd pick us up. He'd take us out to pizza. He knew everything that was happening. But
mom was really the biggest influence.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Can I ask a cultural question? It's because I come from like Irish, right? I'm all Irish. I could get second dual citizenship. And it was very patriarchal. But would you say that Puerto Rican was more matriarchal? Is it really led by honestly, like strong?
That's a great question.
Strong women that have really shaped. I mean, you're talking about your mom, who is. I mean, you want to talk about throwing a punch, right?
That's right.
She threw a punch at 80 something. You know what I mean? I mean,
right.
Hey, that's so like that, and where does that comes from? Just a love of her people and her culture and wanting it to be better here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that it is, but culturally, and you'll see that in many Latin American countries, the concept of machismo, right? That the male is the dominant factor. And, my mother lived a very abusive life, and I sort of don't want to talk about that.
No, I understand.
Throughout her marriage, it was very difficult. There was, domestic violence that we had to deal with. And I think it was because of that she emerged to be this superwoman that I've grown to admire. Now, when my mother passed away, there was over 2,000 people at her funeral. It was a traffic jam down Clinton Avenue because she insisted on having it at St. Michael's Church. And we'll talk a little bit about St. Michael's Church because it's such an important part of my life and the community in this section of the city. But she was my superhero. It was 2,000 people there, and then she wanted to be buried in Puerto Rico. So the governor did the whole half mass. It was just beautiful. It was incredible that she earned that level of respect.
Yeah. So. What a testament! You can always tell. Like I remember being
fired up when I talk about my mom.
Well, and as you should be. Because
I should. Thank you for saying that.
Yes, as you should be, because that's a pretty amazing woman.
And I'll tell you, all throughout my childhood, people didn't even know my name. They were like, "Oh, you're la hija de Belén, right? The daughter of Belén." And what an honor it is to be called la hija de Belén. I was thinking about changing my name to la hija de Belén, but Mercedes is Mercedes, and I have my own fire, my own fight. But I thank her, and there would be no Mercedes if there was no Belén Colón. Let's be clear about that. And it's her fire. Listen, the fight she had back in the 60s is the same fight we're having now. Equity to different things. And it's not that there's a handout, right? We never expected a handout, but give us a hand so that there is an opportunity for us to do that.
Talk to me about...
My mother came from Puerto Rico. She insisted on not taking any public funding. My mother instilled us at a early age that government funding equals they own you. And we never took $1. And sadly, I mean, we suffered. We suffered. We ate vegetation. I mean, this is what we ate from our garden. But it was her mindset to say, don't take any money from the government because that means they own you. And then I think about everything that's happened at the federal level, with SNAP and how they're quickly to impact folks with SNAP, right? That's a level of control. So that plays back in my mind as to, wow, my mother had some points with that. So we never took government subsidies. My mother worked 2-3 jobs at a time. She was a single mom trying to make a lot of things happen in our community. How she found time to do things and barely making $30,000 is a mystery to me. But my mother she was a fighter and made no excuses. There was no such thing as, committing crime and somehow it being justified. Criminality is that criminality. There's no excuse for it. Born and raised in poverty. This is what I know, but it doesn't define you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't define you. Neither does it justify, again, criminality.
You're speaking to I'm going to call it a philosophy that I believe. I think that we argue for people's limitations. And I think that's Absolutely. A real mistake. And we do that in every aspect of life. We do it for our children. We label them with things. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be labeled. I've had that argument before. They shouldn't be labeled. Let me say this. We shouldn't label kids. However, if someone's coming to somewhere to get help with a child, and the only way to get a third-party insurance to pay for it is a label, then fucking label the kid. Sorry. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that it's going to, whatever treatment plan, but let's help people in life live a richer life. And I loved what you said about poverty. It doesn't define who I am. It's just a circumstance that I'm in, right?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah. And I'm also a strong believer that, quality of life shouldn't be limited to the zip code. But we live in certain areas of our city where it's allowed. Look down Lyle Avenue, look down Clinton Avenue. Some of the things that we see in these neighborhoods, it will not be tolerated on Park Avenue. Why is that? We have limited police presence in this area, and I don't care what anyone says. We need police. We need police to be in our communities, to be completely part of our communities. I welcome them. In fact, I opened up a youth center. I think we're closing in on our 4th year here. Within the heart of the city. When I grew up, there was a center called the Puerto Rican Youth Development and Resource Center, and it was just had a resource center for youth and family, but it was a place where we could just be young people, and if we had any issues, that there was someone there just to help us. Due to politics that happens in our community, they shut that down 15, 20 years ago, and it was a void in our community. Now we wonder why young people are the way they are. They don't have an outlet. They don't have anyone to say, we've got you. So I wanted to recreate what was Puerto Rican Youth Development and Resource Center. I actually secured that name maybe 3 years ago, but we called it the Latino Youth Development and Resource Center. And it's everyone. It's everyone within that district, 1460521, and anyone who wants to be part of a youth programming. We go over conflict resolution, problem solving, job readiness. We have sports programming, and it's all completely free. Now, we've tried securing government funding. In fact, we were promised money. Listen, when I get in a higher office, one of my priorities is to make sure some of these nonprofits, A, are legitimate, and B, that they're truly getting the funding. Now, we received the big checks, right? It was cool to model the checks, but we never got it because the systems are so complex that a small organization that doesn't have that infrastructure to navigate through these complex systems, we never got the money. So we are here. I'm putting money out of my pocket because I believe in what we're doing on North Clinton Avenue with the youth. Now, we're not able to save all, but if we can save some, if we could provide a place for them to come in to say, guess what? I was just kicked out of my house. I have nowhere to stay. Come here and we'll figure out where you're going to be versus you staying in a vacant lot or in a vacant house. I don't want that to happen. So we're trying to really navigate through governmental systems, but the community has really supported us. Small businesses see the work that we're doing and they're sponsoring our services and programming. We offer year-round soccer programming, basketball, and we're trying to add more sports and collaborate with different teams, local teams, so that our kids are not limited based on, again, their zip code. We want them to have access to everything. And if I can provide that to them with my limited income, I'm going to do it. My mother did it at $30,000. I can do it. I can do it too. So it's a lot of work.
What about
that needs
grants
to be done.
and things? Though aren't there grants and things that would become available? Do you have grant?
Sure.
Do you have grant writers? I mean, I know writing a grant.
Some of the smaller grants, but because we don't have, one of the criteria for nonprofits is you have to have a full-time employee. Well, I'm a volunteer because we don't have the money yet to hire someone on to run this. So every day we're there in the community, and I'm thankful for the volunteers who've stepped up to say we want to help out too. Now, one of our biggest initiatives right now is addressing absentee. At the high school level, RCSD is at a 70% absentee. Listen, if that doesn't scare you to a point where you're like, what is going on? Stop everything. I don't know what is, but yet I don't see the alarms. I don't see the, hey, community, we need to do something about it. So we're allowing this chronic problem to continue, and it's only going to get worse. Now, we've had the issue of the absentee prior to COVID. COVID just amplified it, and now it's just something that sadly is accepted. Now, I applaud the new superintendent. I think he had his work cut out when he came on, but that's his focus right now, is addressing absentee. But again, we're at 70% at a high school level. That scares me because they're not in the seats. If they're not actually in these classrooms, where are they? They're definitely not learning, and odds are they're probably getting into things that they shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. So I'm terrified by it. That's our priority. We're getting into communities. We're canvassing areas that most don't even want to travel through.
Yeah.
But guess what? There's children that are living in these communities, and they have a right to education.
Everybody has a right to education, and I hear what you're saying. It's very hard, and I have my 16-year-old son who lives with me. I am not in those zip codes, and I have sometimes some real battles to get him to school.
Tough years, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like I've got Ubers or whatever. I mean, but I it's a little different. I understand. However, it is a human problem. And when a parent is trying to get food on the table and doing these other things, you got so much bandwidth. And if there's a way for us to recognize that and help kids. And the other thing, Mercedes, is maybe, and forgive my French, maybe our public school system's a bit fucked up and we got to find a different way. And the thing is, like, to me, and it's hard, right? Schools are a system, and they have to be. There's standards. We've got to, there's things. Being a teacher is, from personal observation over the past few years, being in some schools, is hard. Coming from non-education, I'm 30 years on the radio and stuff, and then sort of making this switch and dovetailing into podcasting and things, and needing some health insurance. So you go to a school where you'll sub or you'll do whatever. You see how hard it is, but it's very easy to come in and meet a kid where a kid's at on an individual level for me. But I don't have standards. I'm not the one who's got to get them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
I agree with that.
There's a system with the school. Why can't we design this to meet the kids where the kids are at? These kids may not, there's all kinds of things. They may not be neurodivergent, whatever, but they're capable. And we can find things for them that will reach them, whatever that is, wherever their interest is. How do we do more of that and less of the other? And then it becomes a battle because, the teacher's got pressure, and so the kid's not there, and there's this and that. And then the kids, and believe me, being a class clown, right? But I was. It's hard when there's disruption. Now take it to frustration. My dad was he went to St. John Fisher, which is where I ended up going as well. But I didn't grow up around here, and he was a major in philosophy. He got a master's and a doctorate in philosophy. Yeah. And he taught sixth grade English in the city of Poughkeepsie.
Wow.
For 35 years. And he would always say to me, you don't know how someone's day began. And what he meant was, and I would assume that some of this stuff happens in the city of Rochester as well, that in the middle of the night, somebody's door got kicked in and someone in the home was dragged out for drugs or whatever things are going on, and the frustrations and and when, think about it, when we're angry about something, it's usually, and it's much bigger than the issue at hand, it's usually a lot of built up shit over the years. When you have no outlet, and you have nobody helping you, and you're looked upon as forgive me, but the scum of society or the whatever or this, we're not helping. And yet we sit there and we go, well, I don't understand. I don't get it. Well, come on, man. It's human beings that need just a little guidance. That's all people need, is a little guidance. And then, and
youth look for that, right? They need structure. They want structure.
Yes. 100%. That's why boxing is so freaking wonderful for kids. I think it's amazing for kids.
I think so too. Everyone says, how do you enter into the boxing? It's such a violent sport. Actually, it's a very disciplined sport.
It's a super disciplined sport. Hang from a bar and have somebody throw medicine balls at your stomach. You know what I mean? Or have them hit. I did for
punched in face. It's
right.
Okay.
But it's okay because it's really, honestly, it's a beautiful sport because it's about scoring points. It's not all about the knockout. It's not all about this stuff. It's about scoring points. And yes, there's some things there, but the discipline of it is wonderful. And I think that kind of, and it doesn't have to be that. It could be something else. But I find so many parallels to life. I see you stepping into a different ring, throwing different types of punches, promoting yourself, doing all these things. It's amazing. It's really interesting.
We really have to try it. And I think that if you see things, and again, I think back to what my mother said: if you sit in the sidelines, you're part of the problem. You have to get in there and try to figure things out. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this. My mother was an educator. She worked at number 8 school. She retired after 35 years of service, and she would have stayed. She started having health issues, and that's slowed her down. And, she decided, well, let me just retire. But she was still very much vested in the education of our kids. In fact, she had this little challenge in our community. For each A, she'd grant $5. My mother was barely making minimum wage. And every year, every semester, you see a line out of our house with everyone collecting their 5, 10, 15, 20. And my mother celebrated that. She goes, I don't care if we don't have any money after this. The mere fact that our community now sees, our kids are being rewarded for it. So I applaud my mother for doing those small initiatives that made such a big impact, because when my mother passed away, I would get those calls. When your mother did this and that, I had no idea my mother still had so many connections from, my childhood, where people are off to college. They're in California, they're in Harvard, and they were saying, your mom wrote letters of inspiration, just telling us that we can still do it. And just to think, my mother was always busy. How did she find time to do all this stuff? But she found time. My mother said, when you want to do something, you will find the time to do it. That led me into getting into education too. I worked as a substitute teacher, and I wanted to sort of kind of do it as a tribute to her at Roberto Clemente number 8 school. I ended up at Franklin, and I'm like, oh, Franklin, huh? Franklin it is. And Franklin, my goodness, Franklin has such great things. Again, you hear Franklin. In fact, we have barriers. If you ever drive down Norton Street and Hudson, it's quite a sight. And one of the things I want to address with the city of Rochester, we've got to remove those boulders. Have you driven by that?
Yeah.
By Franklin High School?
Yeah.
It isn't a welcoming sight. It's not a welcoming sight for the community, for the students, for the parents, for anyone. So
were they trying to prevent people from driving on the property?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I got it. I mean, I get the thing. I think there's a better way, but I don't know.
There's got to be a better way. Come on, these boulders look intimidating. And in fact, in some conversations I've had with the student, they feel like they're in prison. So how do we change that? We can change the facade. We can build something out of bricks, something welcoming, not those rocks. But anyways, I'll digress, because the immediate need was to keep our students safe. And we no longer have the Kia boys deciding they're going to use Franklin Lawn as a racetrack. So that's one thing. But what started off as just a year to celebrate my mother became, I think now we're entering our 4th year at Franklin.
You are.
And at Franklin, yes. I am a substitute teacher. I have a full-time gig there, and I teach Spanish. And within that, there's a little bit of social studies as we're covering different countries. And I absolutely love it. It's incredibly rewarding. And I have an opportunity to really understand what are some of the issues, and I see it firsthand. Again, I have a youth center. I hear them, I see them. But to be in there and see, we have failed. We have failed as a society when we have children that are walking in with ankle bracelets. We have failed when children are coming in that are unhoused. We have failed when we have children that are coming in that haven't had breakfast. And the list goes on. But we've also failed when here it is, March, and we have kids without Chromebooks. How do we expect them to excel if we're not giving them the tools necessary? And I love what you said. I think when you said we have to meet students where they are. Now we're in the age of technology, AI. Let's leverage those technologies, and more so, this is what they kind of.
I hear some crusty old men sometimes say to me that they're not teaching cursive anymore, and I go, "Well, cursive. Let me ask you something. Why aren't we using the things that we have?" And there's so many things for neurodivergent diagnosed children, right? You can talk your stuff into something. You don't have to type it. You don't have
right.
to. There are so many people that have wonderful ideas that may not have other skills, transcribing skills. It could be fine motor skills, whatever was missed as a kid. Fine. Okay. That doesn't mean that they're dumb and they don't have ideas. And, you know, we all celebrate I'm trying to think of, oh God, who was the guy in the wheelchair? Astronomer. Anyway, it's people with disabilities who do these great, amazing things. And yet we look at the people that we have and, you know, they look pretty able-bodied. We go, well, what's the fuck's your problem? And the problem is that somewhere along the line, there may be gaps in their education. What I'm hearing from you, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, okay? I had a friend. He has a name that is not very popular probably in the city of Rochester much anymore. And I really liked this guy. And I thought he did a lot of really good work. And I tried to get him. I used to push him because I would say, you need to run to be mayor. You need to do something. And it was, I hesitate to even say. But he ran a nonprofit. They were putting some money in places they shouldn't. And it was Adam McFadden.
Oh.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Adam would say to me, and Adam would come on the radio show with me, and he was part of we did high school fantasy football because I wanted to highlight some of the kids as much as we highlight the pros, right? So we would all draft different players. And Adam once said to me that there's going to be a real problem in the city because the grandparents are raising the kids and they're going to die. Like they just age out. And as I'm listening to you, your mother raised the community. Your mom raised the community. I mean, that's what I'm hearing you say without you saying that. But that's the story. And your mother's not here anymore. And so here you are again, but you're one person doing amazing things. You've started the community thing. You've done this. You're a county legislator. You're a school teacher. But you're one. Where are all the people? What happened? Why don't we give a shit? What happened within the community to not give a shit? And I don't know if that's even the accurate thing, and it sounds very bad coming from a face that looks like mine, right?
Yeah,
it sounds
but you're absolutely right.
But it sounds judgmental.
Everyone has an opportunity, and I think I said this earlier, of putting a little grain in this earth. We all have the opportunity to do it. We just don't have the will. It's easy to criticize. It's easy to criticize.
Shit, yeah, it is.
Easy to criticize. But what are we doing about it? Everyone's sitting in the sidelines. So we have to shift that mentality to say, if we're upset about what's happening with our youth stealing cars, what are we doing as society to help that? When I said that, we have kids walking in with ankle bracelets, I took ownership. We have failed. Mm-hmm. So this is why I'm in education. This is why I'm subbing over at Franklin High School and have been there for 4 years. And I can see myself being there for many more years because I want to see those kids that were in my 9th grade class walk the stage.
Yep.
That's what I want to see. And I tell them all the time. And here they're worried about living to see their workers permit. If I get if I make it to 16, can you help me find a job? I'm like,
if I make it to 16, that's the phrase they say.
Like, it was 9th grade, and they were asking me that. I'm like, what do you mean? No, not only are you going to make it till 15, you're going to make it to 25 and 35, and you and I will laugh about this when you're taking care of me because you're the generation that takes care of me as it is. But it was a moment that I said, how horrific that they can't see a future. There's no hope. So my job is to just sprinkle hope all throughout this community. And I know it sounds cliche, but this is what's lacking in our community. They've lost hope. Adults have lost hope in this generation. They've lost hope in themselves and being able to uplift. And everyone has the ability of doing this. I'll share a story. There was a woman that lived down the street from the house I'm living, which is my mother's house. And it was my first time running. She heard that I was running and I was running up against a machine. And she says, I don't have a lot of money to give you. In fact, I have no money, but would you accept cans? I cried because I see her collecting cans every single day. And you're willing to donate your cans to my campaign. You believe in me that much. And I said, I can't fail this community. I just can't. everyone, if you look at our community, we're worse off than we were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when there's millions being poured into these communities. So we've got to put a hold and say, where's this money going?
Holy
and
shit.
can we say accountability? We just continue to pour money into this problem, and there's no metrics. There's no what are we measuring? So does it make you all feel great that you're pouring money in this community and it's going nowhere? Why does our city look the way it does? So those are problems that I can't accept it. And I'm sure most of the things I've said today is problematic to my party, but I am Mercedes Party. I am the People's Party. I am who I am because I see what's happening in our community, and I have to roll up my sleeves. People say, what type of Democrat are you? And campaigning has been very interesting. What type of, I would categorize myself as a Kennedy.
Oh my God, I was just going to say you're a Kennedy.
I'm a Kennedy Democrat all day.
Okay, hang on a second, because, geez, I had no idea where this conversation would go. I had a bunch of questions and things. I thought, but I'm so happy the way it's going. I would say that, to me, the Democratic Party has such problems because they can't agree on anything. And the more you go, it's more splintered, it's more splintered, it's more splintered. And when we look at the Republican Party, there's two things that they really answer to: church, big business. That's it.
Sometimes, let's say that. I think that.
And I love the way you think.
Yeah, I think our country is broken. Democrats, Republicans, I think we have serious issues. And that, to me, is disconcerting. I'm knocking on doors. I'm knocking on Democratic doors, and there's just so much to unpack in every single interaction that I have because everyone's angry. But what are you doing with that anger? Why are you so angry? And what can you do to change it? They're like, well, we don't have police. We don't have resources. Look at all this. I said, but what are we doing about it? They depend on elected officials to resolve it when they have their own agenda too. Sorry, I'm going to say that. We have sitting elected officials that are taking money from utilities. Well, of course, they're not going to advocate for a reduction in utility costs. They make profit off of it, sadly, and it's both sides. So we have to have honest conversations about what we're doing and who we want to represent us, because a no vote is a vote. I hear people, I'm not voting anymore. Well, guess what? That is a vote. I need you to be educated. I'm going to provide you with as much information as I can, good, bad, or indifferent. And one thing that I think that why I'm different than anyone else, I'll have conversations with anyone. You could love me, you can hate me, but you'll always get the same Mercedes. I'm consistent. My community needs law enforcement. I'm all for community policing. We walk the avenues, Hudson, Joseph, Sayo, come on down. I don't get too many takers on that. The same people who are drumming up community policing, where are you? We need you out here. I need you. Come out Avenue D. Let's go down Sullivan. Let's go down all these areas where we're seeing an uptick of crime. And let's be there. Let's be intentional about really caring about our community, if you want to say that. Because we can't blame society on some of the issues that we can address. Some of these are because there's not a structure at home. This is what's happening. What can we do to help and build up the families? One of my priorities, and we've started working on this, is getting services down to the street level. We have DMV that's now in our communities. We have social services that are now coming into our communities. But guess what? We also have career fairs too. We have to have those intentional things happening at our community. Okay, you said bring things to us. But let's be intentional about what we're doing. Again, this is not about a handout. I want to uplift. I want to give you a hand so that you're able to fight for yourself. I live in, one of the poorest districts, 0521. How do I change that? I can change it. We can't continue to feed this. Just pour some more money and somehow it remedies themselves. No, I want to provide you with the tools so that you can be successful. Let's get you out of this cycle of poverty and uplift you so that you're able to become, just independent from anything that holds you down today. So it's just so much to unpack with all this. But I every time I hear elected officials saying that they threw money, and nothing worse than, this whole political theater when they do it during their election year. You're putting $500,000 to a rec center or community center right before election. No. do it all your entire term
Mm-hmm.
and be present. There's elected officials that will come to Clinton and say, well, we're going to have police escort. Can you walk with us down Clinton Avenue? Absolutely not. You leave all those escorts and all this entourage. Let's have a real conversation. We'll walk down Clinton, Joseph Sile Street, anywhere you want to walk in our city. Let's walk. I don't walk with police escort. I don't walk with security. I walk with myself because I want to have a real and essential conversation about what's happening in our communities.
Yeah, right. So you pull back the political mask and you get to see what's really happening and not the theater, as you say, right? It's not the political theater. But let's go back to something that you hit upon that I think is so important in human beings. I believe that everything in life is an inside job. And by that, I mean that there's really nothing, and this will sound ridiculous. People go, what the fuck is wrong with you? I don't believe anything. No one can really assert anything on you. Now, there are certainly things, as you gave an amazing example in the beginning where your mother was trying to vote. That seems like things were asserted that way. Were they intentional? I don't know. Was it wrong? Yes, it was. But there was things. But I think that one of the problems that I see so much, and I wish there was an easy answer to this, is building the self-esteem in children. And when I say that, I don't mean like, I don't want to be blowing smoke up a kid's ass, and it's not, you know, and I hear people, every kid shouldn't get a trophy. Well, I had 3 sons, and I don't remember them out past the age of 5 playing soccer that everybody got a trophy, right? And even there was one kid who scored the most goals. And so it gave you a meritocracy to try to build toward. I don't know how you really build self-esteem, but the self-esteem is what we need. And I don't care where you live. The kids are hit with shit on a constant level with social media. And it is really, really, like, they live on these things. That device is never more than 6 inches away from them, it feels like.
That's right.
Right? And so how do you have to make those kids feel good about them? And when I heard things like in communities, and you say you're the Democrats, I'm not the whatever you think the others in the party will say. I know one of the things that was coming out, and it bothered me, was the defund the police. And I go, words mean a lot. Can we say something else instead of defund the police and making, like in any community, it's what's the saying? The bad apple spoils the bunch, right? And we have that with police as well. Were there bad police officers? Yeah. Sure. There are. Are there bad teachers? Probably. There's all kinds of stuff. But we focus on those, and now all of a sudden, they're this. And when we say defund the police, there used to be things that the police did that were great. There were youth leagues. One of the greatest basketball players to ever come out of this area was in a police league. He used to play.
We need to bring that back. I love those.
So my point being is, okay, you want to defund the police? Well, then let's reallocate some of the money, because those things impacted the community. And and you can't tell me, like, people go, well, how do you make a friend? I'm older now. How do you make a friend? You show up at the same place all the time, right? And you just, as the conversation goes, we get to know a little bit more about each other, and we share. And then one day you're sharing something a little more vulnerable, and that's how it happens. That's exactly how it happens on a basketball court with the police and the kids. And that's right. Something that's not missing. And John Wallace is a product of that. Went on to play for the New York Knicks, a wonderful guy, right. Still comes back and does all that. That is the shit that's missing. And
absolutely.
And it's those
I'm
things.
a big fan of Pal. I absolutely agree with you on it. As I mentioned, we run a soccer program over at the Latino Youth Development Resource Center. We use one of the city recreation centers. And several years ago, I was approached by, I believe, the Sheriff's Department with a new group of, it's a new cohort, was coming on, and they had to do some community service. So I said, I would love to participate in that, where they help coach our kids. They're out in the field with our kids during that summer. And the last game, which is always ends with a little picnic and barbecue. It's really nice. They did this, and the kids loved it. The last day, they came in their uniforms. The kids were like, wait, you're a cop?
Yeah.
And it was such a moment, but it built relationships. So all of a sudden, he's not a cop with an interview, you know, and all the stereotypes they hear about a police. This is the guy who couldn't play soccer or that scored on him. You know, they all have this story. And these are lifelong relationships, but it changed their perspective
100%.
on an outlook on policing. We need to do more of that. I agree. Listen, I want a pal. I want a pal right on Clinton Avenue. If we can make this happen, we're gonna have to work with the, the police to make it happen, because you're right. That's what's lacking. 4 shootings since December that impacted a police officer. That alarms me. That alarms me at different levels. But there's shootings in the city every single day. But when it comes to law enforcement, there's no longer respect for the police, and that to me is terrifying. You know, when I saw the video and replayed several times, and I thought to myself, look at how people reacted. Some ran, but there was a gentleman that actually walked towards the guy that was shooting, and I thought to myself, this is society. We're going to watch it, and we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
And again, another police shooting. Listen, I don't want any shootings. In my community, we hear the gunshots on a daily, and it's normalized. So we're having conversations with our children to say, here's how to resolve conflict. You don't have to go towards a gun. You don't have to. And we did a survey. I'll have to invite you over to my center on North Clinton.
I would actually, I want to talk to you about that off air. Not anything about volunteering and doing things.
Oh, what do you mean? I've already put you down as a volunteer, so you can't back out of this.
I think I might like it.
But I did a survey. The survey was how accessible, or the way it was worded is, do you have access, or can you find a gun? And out of 20 kids that we surveyed, 20 said that they can find it. They either have access to a gun and they can find a gun, either at a bodega or at a trap house or wherever. And I thought to myself, they all have access to a gun. How do we remove that? How do we become a society where our children know how to get access to a gun, because they're relatively available in certain communities? And we have to really make a deep dive on why that is. Why is it that these communities, again, they tolerate the level of tolerance that is allowed in these communities? And it's not the people. The people want safe communities. You know, the safest time we've ever had in this community is when they locked North Clinton down because of a shooting. A 3-year-old was shot, and they shot us down. This is the first time, I want to say, since I was a teenager, that I saw families walking their dogs. I've seen people jogging. I saw people doing extra and becoming part of it. But it literally took the command center being right on North Clinton Avenue and no traffic going up and down Clinton Avenue. Why does it have to be this way? Why do we have to be so extreme to a point where the only time we see this is during a shooting? We don't want shootings at all. Let's be clear. Born and raised in this community, I don't want the violence. I think if you've shot someone, you should do your time. We have to look at some of the laws that impact us today. Bail reform was created for a reason. We have to go back and modify it. I'm not saying do away with it. We have to modify it.
I thought bail reform was more of, and this is a very simplistic thing, but I stole a pack of gum. And so instead of locking me up so I can't pay my bills and get to work and do this, let's take it for what it is. Sure. And you're right. It certainly does need to be probably reformed. I don't know how these things.
The reform needs a reform.
Yeah, it goes. The problem is we take the shit too far, and I don't understand how that happens. I know we're coming up on an hour. I don't want to eat up your day, but I want to ask this question, and just going back, because you talked about money coming into the community and where does it go, and that's to hear someone of your level of political involvement, community involvement, to say that is eye-opening. Now, I'm going to bring something up that was a screaming point for many around the country, and that would be Minnesota and the thing. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago, 90 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, 700 years ago, 800 years ago, 900 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, 7,000 years ago, 8,000 years ago, 9,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, 11,000 years ago, 12,000 years ago, 13,000 years ago, 14,000 years ago, 15,000 years ago, 16,000 years ago, 17,000 years ago, 18,000 years ago, 19,000 years ago, 20,000 years you can't give people money and expect them when it's not their money to not give it out. It's people in the community who are coming in and they go, hey, we got $2,000 for you if you can prove your kid is whatever. And so people were doing it. Is that fraud, or are the people giving the money not putting the fucking barriers on it? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. Who's not going to do that in a community where you feel like, hey, $2,000 is a nice punch in the pocket, or whatever the money was? I don't know. And I go, how can you blame people when you just threw money without any guidance for the money, right? And even maybe they had a...
That's the easy way out. Well, let's blame them and let's...
Yes, it's not their fucking fault. You would do the same thing. I hate that because I go, come on, man. If anybody couldn't use a little extra money and you tell me, hey, does your kid write the number 5 backwards? Okay. You
know, we had here in Monroe County, we had a situation where we had something similar where money was being mismanaged and we had to be the bad guys to pull it. And it was the ARPA funding. Look it up. It was quite controversial. And, you know, certain individuals decided they were going to make me their point person. But when we're giving you tax dollars to address issues that are life impacting, listen, I'm going to say this. Don't play with that.
Yeah.
Everyone will say, well, you know, we have life experience. We have this and that. But you're buying Wagoneers. Tell me how you're helping those that are battling opioid, those who are battling social issues. How is that helping?
Because
so
when it's not...
you have to ask the question, but you're right. The accountability starts with us.
It does. And the hard part, Mercedes, is when you give people money that's not their money, they're not going to spend it in the right way. I feel.
We hope that's not
the case. Maybe I'm painting with a broad brush. I'm just saying, like, take it to, you know, like giving your kid money or encouraging your kid to get a job, right? A teen kid, right? To me, it's sort of the same thing. That a lot of times people get excited and go, oh, you know, we got this money and you want a Wagoneer? And Wagoneers? And like, well, do we need a Wagoneer? It's a $100,000 car that's kind of shitty. They're not even that great, guys. They're just not. I mean, I'm a car guy.
Yeah, and trust me, I got quite a bit of backlash because I voted against continuing the funding of this nonsense.
Yeah.
We just can't continue it. I mean, let me just tell you how severe things were. They were earmarked to hire a social worker. Mm-hmm. And then they hired someone that barely had a high school diploma. Do you understand the impact that has in our community? That a person is now giving herself this title of a social worker and doesn't have that. It just, to me, you are now the enemy of this community because now you are advising folks that really need someone that's licensed.
Right. A licensed, yes.
Right.
100%.
Social worker is a serious job.
Yes, it is. It's a very serious job.
Training.
Yes.
And how dare you do that to our community to pretend to be something that you're not and call it help. I don't need that help. We need to be intentional about every dollar, and every dollar should be accounted for. I want to see those monthly reporting to say, this is what the dollars have been spent on. I teach young people every day about accountability. I expect it from adults. So those are conversations. And again, there's people out in this community that are not happy because guess what? We cut that gravy train. It's not going to happen. Not on my watch. So call it what it is. You're always going to get this authenticity. Now, am I right about everything? Probably not. Most likely not. But at least I'm honest to have the conversation to say, you know what, I was wrong about this. But with ARPA, I'm absolutely not wrong about it. And I stand firm in my vote against continuing to fund this nonsense.
I have loved this conversation. It did not go the way I thought I would learn more about your boxing and things. I don't care. I thought it was fantastic. It would be an honor for me to have you back sometime. Truly.
That would be fun. Before we wrap up, I want to tell you we're doing a boxing event here. It's the first time in like 30 years there's been a major boxing event in Rochester. It's going to be at the Blue Cross Arena.
Really?
April 25th. So we have Bryce Mills, who's just recently won the WBC Silver Championship. He's going to defend his title.
Okay.
He's won it like 2-3 weeks ago. So it's cool that he's back on it. I'm a big boxing fan. I'm a big fight fan. In fact, tonight I'm going to go see cage fighting. I
You
just
are.
love the sport. Some people says, well, you either like boxing or you either like boxing, you like MMA. I love them both.
You do.
Because both require a level of discipline.
Oh, huge level of discipline. Those
Different
guys are.
rules and regulations, but you go in there, you just have to respect those that are entering.
I don't understand. Well, yeah, right. And you have to. That's very true. There's one other thing I'm going to jump back to. Just I know we're going a little overtime, but I would compare anything to stepping into those rings. Your adrenaline, you're all this, you're nervous, right? Everybody, and if you're not, there's something wrong with you. Those guys are really putting it on the line. But I think what you do and anybody does, it's the same thing. Take that step into that ring. If you're a young person or you have young people in your homes, get them to step into the ring. They're going to feel better because that's where the true self-esteem comes. The problems happen when we feel shitty about ourselves, and I don't know that it's a disrespect for the police as much as it is a disrespect for every human being these days. And by that, I mean, if you don't have a little bit of something in here, you don't give a shit about anything out there, is kind of my point. And when you're right? We see more shootings of police officers. We could say, boy, there's a real disrespect for police. Well, there's also teachers getting punched and we're not hearing about it. We're also, there's also parents that are getting whatever. There's something where there is this hopelessness. And when there's that, the scariest thing is a person who has nothing to lose.
Yes.
And when these kids feel like they have nothing to lose and they're telling you, if I make it to 16, that's a really scary telling thing. That to me is the bigger concern here. And we need those community centers to show these kids you matter.
That's right.
And you got to figure out inside here, you matter, and build something in here. Don't listen to all this noise and shit out here. You matter, right? And I think that's where we're seeing. I don't know that it's a disrespect for the police. I think it's a disrespect for themselves, and they have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And that's a scary
You're
scary
absolutely
thing.
right.
Yeah.
And I think we as society, we owe it to this generation to just give back. Take time out of your busy schedule and spend time with the youth, whether it be through a rec center, through different forums, volunteering at schools.
Mm-hmm.
We need community back. I was just at a church and we're talking a little bit about absentee, just bringing awareness. Listen, I anywhere that would take me to speak, I will talk about this because this is a chronic issue when it comes to absentee, and everyone has the ability of changing the life of, even if it's your neighbor, they're not going to school, knock on a door and say, what do you need to get to school? Often you'll find maybe they just don't have clean clothes. They don't have supplies. They don't have whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Help them. If you have the ability, the means, and again, it's the will, because you don't have to have money to help help your neighbor. Just help someone, particularly the youth, because they're crying for attention. Exactly. But criminality isn't it. We can't make excuses to say, oh, it's because of that. No, we have to give them direction. Let's give them direction. Let's give them the path to success. And that's something that I'm hoping that we can continue doing in our community, because it's starting to pick up. People are starting to say, yes, what can I do to help young people? And rather it be, we're going to take our kids to the museum, somewhere different, take them out of their everyday rut that they see in their mind. This is the life that they're living. Show them that
there is more. There is more. Right.
Yeah. I took our kids to the museum out in the country, and I forgot it was the county.
Was it?
Oh my
Tennessee
word! I thought these kids were going to hate it. They didn't want to leave, and they said, "Miss, can I tell you something? Something that we don't hear is the sirens." And I thought, wow, how profound. And they didn't want to leave. And they were rolling down the little hills that they were in costumes. And for a full day, they were able to experience something different outside of North Clinton, Joseph, and Hudson. Mm-hmm. They were able to do something different. Mm-hmm. And man, what a rewarding experience that was for everyone that volunteered. And there were organizations and small companies that helped make that a reality. Because there was a bus, there's cost to bus, there's cost to feed these kids.
Yeah, nothing runs on air.
But it was like, I said, hey, I want to take the kids. And people are like, here's $50, here's $100. And it was a community that came together to provide them that experience. And every year they look forward to going out there. They call it the country. We want to go to the real country. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah. It's
You're
amazing.
absolutely right. Give them something to live for.
You're a beautiful soul. If anyone's ever said, you really are. You're doing amazing work, and I love the boxing. I didn't know about the boxing on Blue Cross Arena this April. I think that's really great. That's going to be.
Get it back.
And that's another thing, yeah. And boy, I'd love to talk to you again, and I really appreciate it. And please tell people how they find you and how they can also vote for you. I know you're running for a state assembly. You're going for a higher office than the county legislator, where you clearly you're doing impactful work.
Yes. So I have two websites. The one that I'm really pushing right now is Mercedes 2026. And that's my website for my current goals, which is to become a New York State Assembly person representing this district, the 137th district. Again, my goal is to have a seat at the table so that our community has a fighting chance. You know, we sort of kind of bow down to anything that's happening in downstate. Well, I don't care what's happening in downstate. We need to fight, and we have to have a voice and have the courage to represent our district. And I know that I have it. Listen, I'll come swinging.
Right. Yeah, you do. Absolutely, you do. Well, this has been a real pleasure for me. I really, really, really enjoyed the conversation. God, you are one interesting human being. I didn't know. You kept popping up in my Facebook page. I go, man, this chick's cool, man. Who's she standing with? Some Sugar Ray Leonard? What the heck? Wait, she won a beauty. What the heck is going on here? I don't know. I want to find out more, and I'm glad I did. I really appreciate it. I am, and I will say, please go learn more about what Mercedes is doing. And her dad built that car, by the way. No, I'm kidding. Right. I'm kidding. The car is named after the man's daughter.
Everyone says that. Listen, the biggest joke is, what's your brother's name? Toyota? No, the car was named after.
The car was named after the man's daughter. Come on, just like Porsche, same thing. Come on. All right, they got those beauty queen daughters. I'm Bill Moran. You got it. I'm Bill Moran. We'll see you next time. Somewhere in Nevada, cold outside, she was shivering in the dark. Wow, bird her a ride. You never think you're going to need a personal injury attorney until you do. It's not something you plan for. You know, 1 minute you're just living your life. Next thing you know, you're dealing with an accident, an injury, missed work, and a whole lot of stress you didn't ask for. And here's the truth. Insurance companies, they've got a plan. They know exactly what they're doing. The question is, do you? That's why if it's me, I'm calling Connors and Ferris. They know the system, they know how to fight, and more importantly, they know how to take care of people when things get messy. You're not just a case file to them. They walk you through it step by step and make sure you're not getting pushed around when you're already down. So if life throws you one of those moments, don't try to figure it out alone. Call Connors and Ferris or visit connorsandferris.com with offices in New York City, Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo. Because when it matters most, you want someone in your corner who actually knows how to win. Connors and Ferris.